Hello, and welcome to the Run Amok Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Run Amok Podcast, home of the best Bachelor recaps on this side of the mansion. As always, I'm your host, David Stahl, and I'm joined alongside me, not quite for the last time, but by my loyal compadres, producer Gary and Carson Cooper, to break down a very interesting two-episode finale of Clayton's Bachelor season. Fellas, we were heated before we pressed record. We were chatting a little bit about the episode. Words were being thrown around.
Yeah,
we're upset. We're not happy campers over here. And you know what? Before we dive into a very content-filled, a very emotional, a very rocky final two episodes, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. First things first. Thank you guys. So thank you everyone who's listened to the podcast over the years. We explained earlier in Clayton's season. Look, Coop has his career beginning, as do I. I moved to a new city. Gary has internships popping up. He's got his career. He's got school. There's just a lot going on where we're not full-time podcasters. And we just thought, if we're running out of time, we want to do it right. We want to go out when we still love it. Because right now I'm excited to hop on.
Yeah.
Up until this week, I was excited to talk about this show. I love this show and we love to talk about it. And we were like, okay, I think it's smart to walk away while we still enjoy it before we start being like, oh, we got to do the pod. So this was going to be our last season, and it is. However, we're going to do one final episode. Now, we're going to have special guests, potentially. So the timeline, it might not be next week, but longtime listeners of the podcast will recognize an old voice, an old former co-host joining the program, and then potentially, mayhaps someone from Bachelor Nation is going to join us. I would almost guarantee it. So there will be one final episode. That'll be a fun one where we've had some nice comments of people who seem to enjoy us. So it'll be one where you can kind of learn a bit more about us, not about the show, and we'll just kind of be chit-chatting. So you can listen to that. If you're just here for the recaps, I get it. And fair enough, and sayonara. I guess that'll be it then. But that being said, thank you for everyone who's joined along the way. It's been so much fun interacting with you. Even, I'm not going to say any names, but even the people who love to hate, we love you. We love your comments. We love you gaslighting us into thinking we called you names even when we didn't at Ruth. That's fine. I'm not calling names out. Intern Darren, bleep that out. Now, that being said, fellas, let's dive into the episode because we finished off this season. We were joking. Last season with Michelle would have been the perfect season to end on. Or next season with Rachel and Gabby, who we also love, would have been the perfect season to end on.
But we got something on the other end of the spectrum.
I mean, we got caught in the middle of an angel sandwich with a big slab of oaf in the middle.
A slab of spam in the middle.
That's like two delicious pieces of pick whatever bread you want. Yeah. Focaccia, maybe a pumpernickel, maybe a freshly baked rye. And then it's just a slab of spam right in the middle. Yeah.
Still in the can.
Yeah. Yeah. And just kind of
jiggles and falls out.
That's Clayton. Dude, I'll say it right now because there are some people online who I see saying, hey, be happy for them. Hey, look, but cheer for love. How about no? I've cheered for love my whole life.
I was actually thinking about this leading up to today, so this morning.
Yeah.
We constantly say season after season on this podcast that we all three of us here believe in love, and that's what we cheer for on this show.
We're champions of love.
We're champions of love.
We don't watch this show ironically.
No, we don't. We watch it to see love and see love flourish. Simple as that. Yeah. When you see all three of us actively cheer against love like we are right now, you know it's real.
It holds some weight.
And let's start with this. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it'll work out. I do like Susie. What I don't like, though, is their approach at the end. Look, we're going to go through everything we saw because we saw a lot. My biggest beef, because I don't want people to say, oh, they're just going to hate the whole time. No, because I got a lot of great things to say about Rachel and Gabby.
Yeah.
But I hate how we did the whole, we got to wrap it up in a neat little bow. We're all going to sit around and say kumbaya at the end and act like this wasn't a dumpster fire of a season. They should have come on humbly, and you guys can agree or disagree. I have a feeling you'll be on the same page. They should have just come on humbly and said, you know what, like Susie, I think she's the one for me. We've had a lot of tough conversations. I've been humbled. I made a lot of mistakes. And so we just want to build this organically and try to make it work. We ask just for the space to do that. And then you should disappear. I see today they're doing People magazine photo shoots. What are we doing? What are go off out of the spotlight?
We should have seen them after that episode. That's it. We don't need a press tour.
Yeah, no. After the final rose.
Exactly.
Boom, gone. And you know what? And I love him to death, but my main takeaway is like, okay, Jesse Palmer, you gotta be less, and I get it. You look alike, like you it's your first season with both of you. You felt like brothers. You can't be this buddy moving forward. You gotta have the space to ask the tough questions, because it was all about like he was throwing underhand softballs. They were knocking him out of the park.
I know.
Of course they were. No, that should not have been a smiley conversation. That should have been like, what's your relationship with these girls like, Susie? Do you support what they're saying? Because you're with someone who did something super reckless. There should have just been tougher conversations. But we can get into after the final rose. Do you guys have any like other initial thoughts before we dive in chronologically, just in general?
No, I don't think so. I think everything will be unearthed as we go through it.
Okay, let's do it. So really, my first notes, they start at the rose ceremony. And we have Clayton, obviously, having to explain to the girls what he explained to Susie the week before. Yeah. And I think the part that gets lost in this is neither one of those girls would have been upset with the intimacy part. That's what gets lost on people. Like, it's not that for either of these girls. That happens all the time in this show.
Yeah.
People understand that having sex with multiple people is largely a part of the process. The issue is when you are told I love you in a show like this, where that is just not really done. Ben Higgins still gets ripped apart for it. A lot of people have had sex since Ben Higgins, but he still gets ripped apart for telling two women he loves them.
Yeah.
To tell three. And then to tell them together at the rose ceremony. And then, just skipping ahead a little bit, he breaks up with them together.
That was the worst.
It's actually painful to relive.
In between are his claims of saying, oh, my love for you is completely different. The way I love Gabby is completely different from the way I love Rachel. Then wouldn't the way in which you broach that conversation be slightly different?
Exactly. Why are you approaching them both the same then?
Incredible. Gabby is incredible for both nights, because she's pretty much phenomenal, disgusted across the board.
Yeah.
From him. Yeah. Her facial expressions are beautiful.
Yeah.
The worst part, I don't know. I'm honestly curious to hear your thoughts on which of those two girls you think got screwed over harder, because I had two schools of thought and I kept going back and forth, because Gabby walks away and he has to convince her to come back, which is brutal, to convince her to come back. And then after you drag her to meet your family, which is a huge step, then you tell her, I knew it wasn't you the whole time. And on the other hand, Rachel, she says later, the reason why she's so upset after is she's saying like, hey, all love to Gabby, no shots at her, but I never gave up on us. I was locked in the whole time. So who do you, I mean, it's really a question close. Of like, it's like shooting someone in the leg and shooting someone in the shoulder and being like, who'd you screw over more?
Yeah. I think who got hurt in the end more, and this kind of goes for what Gary and I were talking about just before you hopped on, David. I think this is what Gary was saying as well, I think Rachel was more in love with Clayton than Gabby was. So I think throughout that whole process, I think she ended up being hurt more. Yeah. But in terms of being screwed over more, it's just hard to look past the fact that Gabby had walked out She was begged to come back, gets come back, and then 2 days later gets told you're done. Like that, I can't even fathom that.
And in between that, they don't just go on a date.
No,
she meets his family.
Yeah.
After going through that pain. What I will say on Gabby's front, because I was thinking about like how well she held herself, I totally agree. I think like first of all, hearing those cries from Rachel, tragically great producing to find that venue. Like, what's the echoiest venue we could get? Clayton's just standing there hearing.
I was wondering
bellow up
in
the stairs.
Moment, I was wondering if like that was put in post, and they just
I was wondering that too.
That was happening, but it was.
I don't know.
Well, he mentions
because he mentions it. Yeah, him and Jesse are talking, and one of them is saying like, "How do you feel that you can hear them crying right now?"
Like, great question. What?
yeah. I feel good. Like,
learn that in your Masters of Journalism school. Yeah, but hearing that is so painful. But I think with Gabby also, she is. I think people forget she for a living is a trauma nurse, and so I think like she is really good at holding herself together. Like, you could see it after the final rose too. She's viscerally still mad, justifiably so, and she's so eloquent. Very eloquent, composed, like expresses herself so well. Like, you know when you have an argument with someone and the next day in the shower you're like, damn, I should have said this. She has none of that.
She's
like, never.
I said exactly
every single one. Well, that's just it. Like, even in the moment, like I get after the final rose, you have some time, you can compose your thoughts, you can kind of put them together, you know what you're going to say to this guy. But let's wind it back. He comes in, he breaks up with both of them, right? They go into a separate room, Gabby and Clayton, and she just rips him one, nailing every single point, like, perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, it was so well put together, so well articulated. It was so impressive.
Yeah, it was. And she makes a great point that I loved in terms of, well, you know what? I'm a little conflicted on it because I do love Gabby. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts because she says love shouldn't be measured, which I totally agree with. And Clayton's saying it's not a competition. It's not a competition. That's where I take issue because that's not being honest. Because he's saying, but it's with whoever I love the most, which I'm sure you guys cringed just as much as I did when I heard that, because it distills everything that was wrong with this season. Because we've been trying to think, are his intentions bad? Is he malicious? Is he just dumb? What's wrong? The problem has been, I think, is he's so self-centered. He's like, this is Clayton's journey. It's
just selfishness. And I was going to bring this up later, but David, I got to pull this quote out that I texted you the other day, and it was from our friend over at the Vial Files, Nick Vial.
Nick Vial, shout out, friend of the program.
And where was the quote? I sent you a picture of my new mug. Okay, there we go. He says,
great mug for those who
it was a nice mug, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He goes, you're seeing a guy who's focused on finding love for himself rather than finding love with someone else. And that's
100%.
That sums it up. Everything is just so self-centered and always about what's the best fit for Clayton, never what's collectively a good fit for two people who are going to be partners, right?
100%. My one thing with that is I agree it's wrong, and I agree it's dumb to vocalize it's whoever I love the most. However, that is inherently the show. Love might not be a competition, but the show is. You are
at the end of the
competing for one person's love. No one's vocalized it before. Very bold to vocalize it to the multiple women that you have left at the end. But I also think that in almost every season, probably except for Ari, Colton, and Peter, and now Clayton, the lead starts to understand at the end. Oh, these are like real three-dimensional people that I want to build a life with. He never realized that.
That's just it. Whether it's a show or not, whether it's a competition, I think we can all agree that the very premise of the show from day one is it's essentially a competition. Sure, but you got to realize that if this is going to be your wife or your husband or whoever it's going to be, they are a real person, and you still need to approach those conversations and those in your actions and your behaviors, obviously, as if they're real people, as if it's a very real life thing, right? Like it's not just because you're in the vacuum of the Bachelor, the Bachelorette that these things don't exist. You know what I mean? So like one of the things is when he says like, obviously I love you to all these women, and then says, well, I'm trying to figure out like who I love the most, right? And Clayton's dad says, like, buddy, you got to get that these girls don't want to be competing with each other. Each one of these girls, they want to be the only one you think about.
Yeah.
Like they want to be the sole person. Like he has no empathy or he can't put himself in their shoes at all.
His dad was incredible too. Let's
beautiful.
Shout out to both of his parents who, I mean, we were saying they seem like they're cut from completely different cloths.
Yeah.
I guess it's just an emotional maturity thing.
Mhm.
What I'll say is this too, because I was trying to think, what's up with Clayton? Is he just like, did he get kicked in the head by a horse? Like, is he just dumb? I don't know.
I think he's got like main character syndrome, like straight, like he just never faced any like challenge in his life, and he's never had to like go inside and like kind of lament over like what he's done. It's just like been easy for him. I think that's like his main problem.
I would agree. And to kind of even expand on that too, I was thinking about it. I think you're right. And I think on top of that as well, I think before Michelle's season, and I didn't get this impression initially because he's, I'm a good Midwestern boy. I want to be married, settle down. I'm not going to use the term F-boy because it's kind of cringy to me. Yeah. But I think this was a dude who just had a lot of hookups before and did not. And this is how he kind of viewed women as like, well, I'll jump from this to this to this to this. Where's my happiness? He has a quote to the girls when he's doing the group breakup. He goes, my happiness is with Susie. That's the most selfish thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. And so I think he just had never had to think of him as a part of a unit, as like, he's
one piece to a collective.
You're a half of a whole. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And not like an entity in yourself that someone else is slapping
around. Two holes. Exactly. It's like it's a team. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and then so that's it. He goes and proposes to Susie. She says no. Obviously like bonkers move. First of all, she didn't think that was coming. Pulls out the ring. Like, dude, what are you thinking? But whatever. I think that was obviously producer led. But he's such a pawn to the producers. Be like, no, like I'm not going to pull a ring out and I'm going to see if she wants to like leave and have a relationship. I think she maybe would have been like, okay, let's give it a shot. Yeah. I think the ring was like, dude, you're a crazy person. Yeah, you have no semblance of the situation. But then we get after the final rose. They say, oh, Clayton's alone. And we do get an iconic moment. Say what you will about him, but our bachelor leaves alone. What does he? We get the eyebrow from Jesse Palmer, which was electric. But before that, we get the Gabby and Rachel reckoning. They were both so eloquent. They were both so done with them. And I think I think as soon as the vacuum of the show was done, like that bubble, that power dynamic was gone, they saw him very clearly. And we're like, holy shit. What happened? Yeah. Like people coming out of a cult.
World was I just did. Yeah.
It's like Leah Remini. Yeah. It's like Leah Remini coming out of Scientology, the lead on King of Queens, and she's going on like E-Talk talking about it. Like she's like, well, I don't know where I was from 2004 to 2012, but nothing good. I don't know. And the weirdest part, like a lot of this is because it's all producer driven, right? So for some degree, I'm like, okay, Clayton was a sheep, right? He was dumb, didn't know the show. He said, I never watched the show before. Yeah, well, you probably should have because you really bungled it at every turn. But what I cannot give him a pass on is everything in after the final rose. He's hearing these women explain so clearly and eloquently how he failed them, how he messed up. And he goes, time after time, sorry you felt that way.
You feel that way, yeah.
First of all, no apology is an apology if it has the word but in it. Okay, dude?
Honestly, every single one ended with, I'm sorry you feel that way, but, I didn't mean any
I was trying to do the blah, blah, blah. Dude,
shut up.
Say, I messed up. I'm trying to, he should have just said, yeah, what you're explaining right now, are fundamental character flaws. And I'm sorry. Like,
I don't have all the answers, and trust me, I wish I did. Why don't you, dude?
Figure it out, man. What were you doing for the past 4 months? You had 4 months to look for some answers. All these important talks with Susie, yet you came up with no answers, and you're moving to Virginia. And everyone's like, root for them. Root for what? What are we talking about? What am I supposed to, like, this dude has done zero learning. I listened to his interview on Chicks in the Office today. I know he listens to everything they say because I've listened to the other interviews, and he calls out every specific critique that they've had of him. He'll be like, well, you guys said this, and oh, you guys tweeted this. Dude, hey, maybe focus inward. That's what you did all season. Maybe do it a little critically. He comes on, he sounds so annoyed that they're giving him any sort of grief or critique. Yeah. Dude, you are not the good guy. Just accept it and get off of a camera and go try to learn about yourself. It was insane. The lack of empathy, I think, in After the Final Rose was the worst part to me.
Brutal. And even, I guess this was also in the final or after the Final Rose as well, but also when he was breaking up with them, specifically with Rachel. I guess there's 2 points. One, he initially talks to Susie.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, she's crying, and she's kind of like talking about how belittled she felt, you know, how embarrassed she felt. Like, she said something about feeling like a dog kind of like shooed away or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, dude, I was getting emotional watching this, and he's sitting there. Listen, I get some people not everyone's the same emotionally. Like, I don't expect everyone to necessarily cry or react in some way.
But he cried when he thought he lost her.
But he cried when he thought he lost. This is it. He cried in other opportune times to cry. Just a straight face, and of course has his classic "I'm sorry." Same thing when Rachel's loading it on him, right? When they're walking out to the front door and she's crying, saying like, "You never loved me. You never fought for me. All I've done is fight for us." Just straight face, like just no emotion at all. So, dude, you can't sit here and tell me that you genuinely loved at least 2 of these girls.
Yeah.
And then react that way and treat them that way. You didn't love them, man.
And his big narrative too, on top of that, Coop, is saying, well, and to go back to that quickly, we said that was Serene too, right? That was our first red flag. We were like, oh, that was weird that he really gave her no conversation, no closure. She said, oh, because I said I loved you. He goes, no, wasn't that. Bye, forever. Okay, I guess I'll let that noodle around my brain for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And his whole thing, though, and After the Final Rose, or when he broke up with them as a duo, was, I'm just being honest. Well, no, you're not, man.
Yeah.
First of all, I give you no credit for that, because that, you knew the producers were going to make you say it, because it's TV gold to sleep with 2 women, tell 3 you love them, break up with 2 of them, drag them both back, and then break up with them again. That's TV gold. It kind of blew up in their face. I think if they could do it again, they wouldn't. But that was not honesty on your part. You had to say it. What you could have said, to be completely honest, was what you told Susie.
Yeah,
was that you loved her more. If you didn't tell anyone that.
Yeah.
They would have been gone had you said, I fell in love with 3 women. I slept with 2 of you, but I realized once Susie left that I loved her more. Boom. Over there.
Bye-bye.
There's no second breakup. They're gone. You don't have to chase after them. He was just this ego, is all ego, where Susie leaves and goes, well, I want to end up with someone.
Yeah. Well, exactly. The classic, like, well, I hope I don't end up with nobody. But just think of it, if it didn't end up being Susie, however it did end up being Susie. Let's say it ended up being Rachel, or it ended up being Gabby. That's who it kind of played through. What's going through his fucking mind when they're watching this back, and now they're going, wait a second.
Yeah.
You didn't tell any of us that you loved Susie the most.
Yeah, but I was like 80% honest.
Yeah, like what? Like,
yeah.
You got to be thinking, like, because he mentions a few times about, but I thought about, like, when we'd be watching this back and, like, how it would look if I said that. Well, if you're aware of that, then you should be very aware of how that would look if you were going to choose Rachel or Gabby, which means you never had any intention of choosing Rachel and Gabby. It was always going to be Susie when you found that out. You know what I mean?
100%. And also, can you maybe stop talking about, like, oh, I knew how it would look when I was watching it back.
Yeah.
Hey, man, maybe worry about the two women you thought you were in love with that are crying. He's like, yeah, but imagine how it's going to look when we watch it back.
Yeah.
Their world they thought they had a husband, and you just told them they never had a chance.
Yeah.
And so here's a question, because we did pose it. This is where I will give not Clayton a break. I just don't think it's the case. But do you think that he did sleep or say I love you to either of the women just to sleep with them? Because that's what Rachel says, which is something that's been floating around. I don't think that was the case. Again, I think it was his ego being like, okay, well, no, initially I think he just got caught up in the moment. And then the reason why he stuck with them was, again, like we said, ego, not wanting to end up alone, saying, if Susie doesn't want to be with me, I'll be with another incredible woman.
I think that compared to dude just doesn't know love. Like, he just doesn't get it.
Yeah, he doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
he's not. Look, he's not in the Champion of Love Club, and I love him to death. But him and Caleb can go hang out in the anti-love club because they're not. But just put him on blast. Our former host, you might see him in our final episode if you tune in. Not a champion of love. Not a big fan of the show. No. Him and Clayton can go hang out together and go fret about what they both appear on screen.
They would have done well.
Yeah, I don't know. So what do you? Look, I want to be optimistic because I do like Susie. I will say she was very clearly nervous. Like, I don't like how she came across. I think she was very nervous that people would despise her.
Yeah.
I see people saying, oh, she just did it for, dude, some people, and it's women. And I love the Bachelor Nation, but it's women who will like die on the cross for these shitty men sometimes. Like, is it because they're attractively? I don't know what it is. There's women on, and I'm sure there's guys too being misogynistic, but there's women on Twitter being like, oh, this person's just, Gabby was disingenuous, Susie's disingenuous, Clayton's just trying to find love. People did that with all sorts of people on Katie's season 2 that we critiqued. What are you talking about? I don't think Susie's being disingenuous. I do think she was just very weird energy, being like, "It's my boyfriend." And like, did you watch the same episode as us?
I think it came off as nervous because there was a few times where like she'd have a very quick, like snappy response, like a kind of a quirky response to something that like Jesse would ask or like prompt out there. That would just kind of be like, "Oh, that was kind of weird." But I think it was just kind of nerves and like unsure of how she'd be perceived after everything we just watched.
By the way, Jesse Palmer's got I think he's a good host, and I know, unpopular opinion, Caitlin, first of all, Tayshia, can I go on record? Not a big fan of Tayshia, really. Like, don't love her personality. I feel like it's almost law that everyone's got to love Tayshia. I just don't like her. I don't dislike her, but she clearly doesn't give a shit about this show. Let's not have her host the show anymore. But Caitlin, I think Jesse Palmer's a better host, just personally.
Yeah,
but
I enjoyed Jesse this season, but he's
got to get a little sharper with after the rose comments. Like, sometimes he would ask a question that would clearly go nowhere that he thought was going to be a home run. Like, he would ask Gabby, like, so Gabby, dude, here's this crazy format that you have know nothing about. Dude, what are we to expect?
Every question he asked the two of them sitting there, he thought was going to be a home run, and he asked 4 in a row. Yeah. All of them were nothing questions, man. Like, nothing. He got nothing in return. It was almost
and like Chris Harrison was the king of like, here, I'll leave it a little open-ended, and you can go with wherever you want. But it was too open-ended. It would be like,
do you think you'll fall in love with 2 guys?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He goes, I don't know. I might, but I think I'd be smart with how I vocalize. She saved his ass with good answers. But okay, so overall, faith in Clayton and Susie. Like, do we think there's? I honestly think there's like no shot.
There's no shot. Like, I'm not. I give it like 2 months and they're done.
Yeah. I just don't think he's ready. I honestly don't even think. I think he should go to therapy. Like, I'm not like qualified to say that, but I think this dude has like very skewed. I think a lot of it is like, and we know some people like this. And I obviously won't say names, but like we know people who act as it, like, it's such a weird contrast of having a very big ego and a very fragile ego. And I think that is the rare intersection of where Clayton lies, where it's like everything's about me And if it's not, my world's going to come crashing down. Like, I think he's got a lot of work to do before he's in a serious relationship. I don't think he's ready to care for someone else in any capacity.
In the moment and right now, like if Susie is happy and content with her relationship, like I'm not in a position to say
all power to her.
All power to her. But at the same time, I'm not rooting for you. I'll say that. I'm not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like look, if I'm wrong, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly.
I'm really confident that
I'm pretty confident. And it's. I think we all agree. This is no slight to Susie at all.
No, not at all. No, and I, it's funny. I think sometimes like we really look to not men generally, but people. I think we really look for like the hidden meaning sometimes, or like who is this person really? Yeah. At a certain point in life, your actions are just who you are. They amount to just who you are. And all season long, so Clayton's making this mistake. Does he not know what he's doing? But does it blah, 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 blah. Stop looking for reasons to excuse bad actions. At a certain point, a bunch of selfish actions equal a selfish person.
Selfish guy.
It's like, I made this many mistakes.
At some point, the behaviors and the actions that you express
are your
reflection
character
of who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Your actions, they just are your character at some point.
And to a point where that,
Yeah. And so, I think I think I'm at the point where I'm like,
I know who he is.
I think we know who Clayton is. I know he would watch this. I know he would watch this and say, "Grr, no, you don't. I'm a great guy. These guys don't know what they're talking about. Stop using the word gaslighting if you don't know what it means." I do know what it means. Literally, the textbook definition of what you did. It's like hilarious that he put that clip out. It's like, dude, that was the textbook definition of gaslighting. And then I saw someone on Twitter being like, actually, someone on a podcast who's a licensed therapist said it wasn't. Okay, like okay, I don't care. So Clayton, I know you watch this, and I'm sorry, but final thoughts on the season. Let's jump into the announcement real quick. Gabby and Rachel, we're getting the duo now. We're not going to be recapping this season unless Brianna from Brianna's Bachelor Breakdowns ever needs a couple guests. We'll hop on.
Absolutely.
But how do you guys feel about the double bachelorette? Because we've had it before with Caitlin Bristow's season. I forgot about this, but apparently they voted on who would be the bachelorette, like I think midway through the season, which is very weird. That won't be the case this time. They confirmed. Going to be the whole time. How do you feel about it? Because I think it's going to be entertaining. I'm nervous at the intentions of ABC.
Well, as a champion of love, I'm nervous, but like from a content perspective, I think it's going to be good. That's
I agree. I think we just need some rules. We always joke on this show, there's no rules, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
We're going to need some rules. We're going to need some rules.
Because
there cannot be,
Jesse,
there's got to be like a separate shout out to producer Gary's girlfriend. Just speaking of champions of love, I think there's got to be a separate pool. Like, I don't know, maybe they draft the guys. That'd be fun. Or like once a guy's established with one of them, that's it. Well, there's no flip-flop.
Exactly. I don't want
them fighting over it.
Yeah, I don't want them pitted against each other. That's
not at all.
Definitely not what I am signing up for to watch.
But I think the producers are really tuned in to Twitter and Universal. I won't watch. If they start pitting them against each other, that's where I will officially be like, especially because we're not recapping, I'll be like, hey, you know what? I need a season off. I cannot watch them pit these two girls that just went through something insane.
Right now.
Yeah, and Jesse Palmer said, you're going to be bonded for life unless we can do something about that.
Ideally, I would love to have them be like just best friends through the whole thing and just be like, kind of
and uplift
guide each other through the
That's
whole
fun.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
And the thing is they both have great personalities. Like we don't let them shine. We don't need like crazy antics or to be pit against. Literally just let Gabby be her. And I think it'd be hilarious if like maybe they can switch if they both agree. It's like, you know what? I'm not really. I think you'd like him. It's like, you know what? We're doing a trade. Yeah, Daniel, you've been traded over to the other side. He doesn't really want to go, but you got to. You've been traded. You got to date this girl.
Yeah.
I think that would be real. But
just disregard the feelings for the contestants.
Yeah. Well, yeah, take a page of the Clayton's book. But
Yeah, exactly.
I think like the only thing if I could speak for all of us, just don't pit them against each other. Everything else will
that's
be
my only
electric.
rule. Yeah.
Just let them be friends. That I agree, Gary. That's the most fun to me is if they're just buddies the whole
But it's
time.
Bachelor Nation, and
We'll see.
we know they
We'll
love
see.
the drama. So
My other final takeaway, thank God, it's not coming till June. Like,
yeah. I need
dude, I feel like I just ran a race, honestly. Like I don't really drink ever. Last night I was like, I think I need like an old fashioned or something. Like I think I just need something stiff, just a scotch with a little bit of water, no ice. I need like to unwind. It's been back to back to back to back to back to back to back. We've had so much goddamn love shoved down our throats.
Wow.
Cut that out, intern Darren. It's insane, and so it feels, I don't know, it feels good to me that we're getting a break. How do you guys feel about it?
Yeah,
break?
it's much
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah, very needed.
It's much needed.
Last night when I was watching the episode is like the first Tuesday in my life where I actually wanted to like go like pour a vodka shot or something. Like it was like it was a low point for sure.
I cried in the tub for a little bit after. Unrelated, but it didn't help.
No.
No, I agree. Like I'm losing. Yeah, lost a little bit of faith in the show. I think the new format is good though, because there are so many other dating shows popping up. Yeah. I'm gonna say, especially with a bunch of seasons in a row, format was starting to get a little stale. I know the contestants are different each time, but they're getting lazy with the dates. They're getting, COVID definitely hurt it.
That's why I think this is a nice shake-up, and probably why they're going with. I mean, the opportunity obviously presented themselves to go with 2 bachelorettes, but I think that's another incentive to kind of go that direction to kind of shake things up a little bit.
All right, last question before we jump into our roses and thorns. What do you think the percentage chances? I know it's rare. What do you think the percentage chances are that we see Susie on Paradise?
Oh, I kind of want to.
Like this summer?
Yeah.
So soon?
I think it's like a 0% chance, but I would love for that to happen.
Yo,
what if Clayton came down
3%? 3%.
Clayton comes down.
I'm legit done watching Clayton. I'm legit done.
I never want to see it
again. But like,
again.
here's the thing about Paradise, though, is those people get exposed on Paradise and like beaten out like by
he's been exposed,
but I know I don't really need anything else proven. I think the world fucking hates him. Just like go, I don't even know what he does. Like go to Virginia and dude, Virginia, like Clayton. If I'm you, I'd want to move to a place with a lot of distractions where your personality isn't magnified. In Virginia, there's nothing to do but talk. It's gonna take 4 days before she goes, holy shit, this guy's a nightmare. He just asked me when we're ready to have children. We're dating for 3 weeks. But yeah, I mean, in that being said, best of luck. All right, fellas, let's jump into our roses and thorns. All right. Our final roses and thorns ever. We're not going to be doing them on our last episode. Always a pleasure. If this is your first podcast, well, that's weird. But our rose is what we're cutting out of the episode. Our rose is what our highlight. No, damn it. All right. From the top, fellas. Hello and no. Our rose is the highlight of the episode. Our thorn is sip, 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 what we're cutting away. So let's kick it off with producer Gary. What was your thorn? And you can go as many as you want. Lord knows I'm cheating this episode.
Okay. Well, a collective to Clayton, a collective to the season.
Yeah, we can all.
We don't have to go there. I'm honestly though, I think I want to cut the like whole echoey venue for that rose ceremony. That was like cringy and like traumatizing, and
Rachel's cries were so sad, man. Yeah.
I'm still feeling the like effects of that, so I think I'm gonna snip that out of the episode. We definitely don't need to see that next season.
Fair. Coop, what you got?
I'll cheat and I'll go with 2 thorns. My first one is, and we kind of talked about this before, we don't like to actively cheer against love. I sure as hell don't. But not that I'm cheering against the love of Susie and Clayton, but that's my thorn. Especially the way they came across at the after the final rose, and obviously the kind of the press rollout that we're kind of seeing now, just kind of rubbing me the wrong way. It kind of tied into that. Also, my thorn. It hasn't been brought up yet, but I'll take congratulations later. I technically am the winner of this year's draft, And
You are. No. You know what?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And this
You
my
won.
thorn is this is not the way I obviously would
I
want to
know.
win
It's
this.
tough. It's a tough way to win.
Do you even feel good about yourself?
I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was so thrilled when because remember the rules are they have to pick that person. They still have to be together at after the final rose. That is our criteria. And I was honestly thrilled so I could say like, yeah, I know I didn't win, but you know what? He did pick her. So I was right in that sense, but she said no, and I would have been happy with that. But then she had to come around and be after the final rose. So,
Congrats, my man. Yeah, must feel good.
Yeah.
Champion of love. Yeah, you
right.
saw it. You saw it the whole way. Dude, I picked Eliza, bro. She didn't even make it to the after the final rose. She didn't even make it to the women tell all. She didn't even get to tell all.
Gabby was my other pick, so I had a great
You had a
showing.
great run.
You
Yeah.
had a great showing. I had Serene made top 4. That's
Yep.
fine. We take those.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a fair one. My thorn, I only had written down Clayton, but I knew we were going to do a collective one. I had a lot of roses to end this one, shockingly, but there were some things to celebrate. I will go. The group breakup has got to be established for sure. Group breakup. I'm going to also say the family introduction. That was very, very bad. To then take them there. Yeah, and you know what? I think we'll just and then the softballs at the end. I need to. That would have saved it, honestly, if they grilled them really hard and were like, okay, wish you all the best, but we'll see. But they felt the need to tie it up with a neat little bow, and so
Yeah.
I'm snipping the producer's choice on that one. Give me some
Good
fastball questions. All right, let's go roses. Gary, what you got?
I'm gonna give it to Gabby's a level of emotional intelligence,
Ah,
just like
yes.
how she's
Beautiful.
able. Like I was talking to Coop before we started, and like I was saying, if you're in a relationship with Gabby in the future, it's gonna be so easy. She's gonna tell you how she feels, and you just gotta respond accordingly. She's gonna lay it out for you, and it's amazing how eloquently she lays out her thoughts in the moment too.
In the moment,
like
too.
right
the
as
best.
it happened, as it's going on, not
So
days
cool,
later, not hours
collected.
later. That
She's the best.
second. It's
She's the best.
crazy. Yeah. So,
Yeah, 100%. Great one. Coop, what you got?
I'm gonna ring a few off here, and I apologize
Ooh.
if I go over one of yours, David.
No, I've got 8.
Oh, I got
A whole
5.
bouquet.
My first one's gonna go to overall Jesse Pullman for the season. I was very impressed with him as a whole. I think we all were. Obviously, there's some things that we can improve on.
We were
such as
controversial.
Such as our questioning and maybe how buddy we are with certain contestants.
A little too buddy. I think that was a little bit of an asterisk, though. I think it was hey, first experience.
For sure.
We looked like twins.
So, overall, I was pleased with Jesse Palmer. I'm going to second Gary's rose on Gabby there. Obviously, I think she had just a wonderful, wonderful showing. Another rose is also going to go to Rachel as well. I think the two of them both, in their own ways, responded really well and it stood up for themselves to Clayton, which I think was very needed, both after the final rose and also in the moment. So I was very, very pleased there.
Mm-hmm.
Another rose is going to go to Gabby's grandfather. What a showing from him. Right.
Yeah, what a
I loved
showing
how much
indeed.
he kind of had the dialect of Joe Biden by saying "man" after everything.
Yeah, very Joe Biden-esque for
And
sure.
I'm going to give my last one.
Dang bat.
Yeah. I'm going to give my last one to Clayton's parents.
Because you got me there.
As we said,
Yeah.
I just think, simply put, they're cut from a different cloth than Clayton, especially his father. And his father seemed straight up disappointed with him. Screwed the pooch. As simple as that.
Yeah.
Right?
Did screw
Clayton
the
screwed the pooch. So
Did screw the pooch.
yeah, all around, like you said, it's strange that there's a lot of positives from that episode in this season as a whole being what it was.
Yeah, 100%. You guys went over a lot of mine. That's fine. All the family members, and what I'll add to that, Big Tone. Love Big Tony.
Big Tony.
He is
Going,
pretty great, yeah.
be good. I'll be watching you. I love that. Like,
There's
what
one
other
line.
advice do you think I have for you on TV? I'm done with this show. I'm pissed my daughter's doing it again, but I love her. Like, fuck this franchise. He clearly hates this show, obviously.
Yeah.
Also, did you send me that clip today, Coop? I don't know if it was you, but it was her dad, Big Tone, saying like, "Oh, my wife said if I don't have anything nice to say,
Oh,
I cannot say anything at all." And she goes,
Yeah.
"I didn't say that because I don't have
I don't have anything
anything
to
to
say
say
either."
that." Yeah, which I love. Both of them were fantastic.
Yeah, agreed.
Gabby's grandpa, Clayton's parents. Pretty much everyone except for the lead on this show was fantastic, which is
So
tough.
true.
Yeah, I mean the new format I'm giving a rose to, and this speaks volumes about how much this season took out of me. I'm giving the break a rose. I'm giving the fact that the show
honestly,
won't
guys,
exist for a bit.
Let's give us a rose for during that as
Hell
well.
yeah.
Yes,
We're
I'm
having to
giving
cover
you two a rose. There you go, fellas.
Thank you.
Not a real rose.
Oh, actually, can I bring something up? This is a thorn of mine I forgot to mention.
Okay, I'm nervous. Yeah.
No. You're
Okay.
David's
something to do with you.
Yeah.
This is actually what really rubbed me the wrong way.
Ooh.
Clayton, buddy, like, you got to give up the rose, man. Like,
Yeah.
his last thing is to go get the rose to give to Susie. I've been waiting so much. Dude, it's not about the rose.
No
Nobody
one
cares
is
about the
rooting
rose,
for
man.
this moment.
Yeah.
No one needed that moment.
Oh,
No
dude.
one was
I
waiting
thought it
for
was
that.
gonna be a puppy or something, just something to like
what
redeem
are you
him.
doing, man?
Like, I
You
thought
think
it was-
Susie? Oh, like, she's gonna love this, bro.
like, bro,
Like,
She's
come
gonna
on.
die when I give her.
That
this
was
rose.
definitely, like, dude, he thought he nailed it too. That's the most worrisome part. This dude definitely gives the worst gifts ever. He definitely, Clayton's definitely the dude to give sex coupons
That was
for a
not-
gift on Valentine's
that
Day.
was not-
1,000% to be like,
That was
"Oh,
not producer driven at all, too.
One free blowjob for me." It's like, well, bro, what are you doing? Like, that's 1,000% Clayton on Valentine's Day, bro, for her birthday. Like, you get to make me breakfast in bed. Thanks.
Oh,
Stupid
bro.
ass haircut, bro. Like, nice bangs, dude. You have curls. What do you do? How do you have bangs with curls, bro?
We gotta cut it off. We gotta ease up on him right now.
All right. Shout it.
She's a
Dumbass hair.
dumbass height.
The chia pet looking ass.
Head ass.
Head ass. All right, guys, we got one more episode. You got one more episode with us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Roses to everyone who's ever listened to this show. We just started it for fun, and it grew into something that people listen to, and so that's awesome. This is such a fun little turned into such a fun pandemic project, and really grew from there. But all right, guys, cheers. We'll see you on our one final episode. Stay tuned for that. Gary, for the penultimate time, remember,
A wet bird never flies at night.
thank you and peace.